There's a truth women rarely admit out loud. A truth that sits quietly in the back of her mind, even when she looks calm on the outside. Every woman fears losing one kind of man, not the handsome one, not the rich one, not even the overly nice one. She fears losing the man who carries himself in a way that makes her feel safe, challenged, understood, and grounded, all at the same time. And here's the part men always misunderstand. A woman doesn't fear losing him because of what he says. She fears losing him because of how she feels when he's around. She feels stable. She feels guided. She feels seen. She feels herself becoming better. That's the man she'll fight to keep, and the man she'll regret losing for the rest of her life. Let me show you who this man is, layer by layer, and why once a woman gets a taste of him, she knows she may never find him again. 1. His emotional stability is her home. Picture this. She's overwhelmed, life is messy, emotions are loud. She says too much, she overthinks, she fears she's too much, but he stays calm, not cold, not distant, just stable. He doesn't rush to react. He doesn't panic when she cries. He doesn't explode when something goes wrong. He becomes the quiet in her storm. Emotional stability is not about having no emotions. It's about not being ruled by them. A man like this feels things deeply, but he knows how to process them like an adult. And whether she says it or not, a woman notices everything. The way he pauses instead of yelling, the way he breathes before speaking, the way he listens without trying to win the argument, the way he walks away instead of turning every problem into a battlefield. This kind of man becomes rare in her world. Why? Because most men crumble under stress. Most men argue from ego. Most men get triggered easily, but not him. And she knows that if she loses a man who can stay grounded during chaos, she may never experience that kind of emotional safety again. 2. His self-control makes him feel different. There's something powerful, almost intimidating, about a man who has control over himself. He doesn't chase validation. He doesn't fall into temptations just because they're there. He doesn't react to every message, every comment, every little test life throws at him. He chooses his actions. He chooses his words. He chooses his battles. A man with self-control becomes a man with presence. When he says, "I don't have time right now," she respects it. When he says, "I'll think about it," she listens. When he walks away from drama, she admires it, even if she doesn't say it. He's not unpredictable, he's not chaotic, he's grounded. And women know, deep inside, that a man who can control himself can also control his life. A man who controls his life becomes a man who cannot be easily replaced. 3, he has purpose, and purpose creates gravity. There are men who wake up each morning and drift, and then there are men who wake up with intention. Women feel the difference instantly. A purpose-driven man has an aura. It shows in his walk, his voice, his eyes, his energy. He has direction, and direction is attractive, not because he's busy, but because he's building something. He's not looking for someone to rescue him from boredom. He's not using relationships as a way to escape himself. He's not depending on her to create meaning in his life. He already has a mission. And here's the secret. A woman doesn't want a man whose world revolves around her. She wants a man who has a world of his own and chooses to invite her into it. When she feels his purpose, she feels safe. She feels inspired. She feels challenged in the best way. And she fears losing him, not because she's insecure, but because she knows men like that aren't created easily. Purpose builds value. Value builds backbone. Backbone builds attraction. And attraction makes him unforgettable. 4, his confidence is quiet. And that's why it's deadly. Women can spot fake confidence instantly. Loud, showy, defensive, always trying too hard to be the man. But this kind of man, his confidence is simple. It's in his posture, his eyes, his choices, his silence. He doesn't compare himself to other men. He doesn't beg for approval. He doesn't shrink when someone challenges him. Why? Because he accepts himself. He knows who he is, and he's okay with not being perfect. This type of confidence is rare because it comes from truth, not ego. And here's the quiet fear every woman feels around a man like this. If I lose him, I'll have to settle for someone who still doubts himself. That's a heavy feeling, and it changes the way she holds him. 5, his strength shows in how he leads, not how he controls. True leadership isn't loud, it's steady. Women don't fear losing a controlling man. They fear losing a man who leads with clarity and compassion. This kind of man makes decisions without panicking, thinks about the future, not just the moment, handles pressure without breaking, stays calm when others collapse, protects without suffocating. His strength isn't in his muscles, it's in his stability. And when a woman feels that kind of leadership, she feels a different type of safety, not because she can't handle life, but because she finally feels she doesn't have to handle it alone. And once she feels that, she fears losing it, because she knows most men can talk strong, but very few can be strong. 6. His respect and boundaries. Make him hard to replace. Most men either overgive or undergive. Most men either lose themselves or shut down completely. But this man stands in the middle, firmly. He respects himself first. And that respect becomes the model for how he treats others. He doesn't allow disrespect. He doesn't tolerate games. He doesn't sacrifice his values just to be liked. He doesn't fall apart when someone pulls away. His boundaries are calm, quiet, clear. A woman respects that instantly because she knows that a man who respects himself will never lose himself in the relationship. And a man who never loses himself can give love without losing balance. Losing him would mean losing the rare mix of strength, kindness, clarity, and self-control. 7. His scarcity makes his presence valuable. This is the trait no one talks about, but every woman feels. He's not available to everyone, not his time, not his attention, not his heart. He doesn't spam messages. He doesn't chase endlessly. He doesn't wait by the phone. He doesn't revolve his life around someone who hasn't earned a place in it. Scarcity creates curiosity. Curiosity creates attraction. Attraction creates emotional value. When a man lives a full life, a busy life, a meaningful life, his presence feels precious. So when he gives his time, it means something. When he opens up, it's real. When he chooses someone, it's intentional. Losing him feels like losing a rare opportunity, because men like that do not circle back easily. 8. He becomes the man who changes her standard forever. There's always one man in a woman's life who changes her quietly, deeply, permanently, not because he was perfect, but because he lived in a way that forced her to grow. He taught her the value of respect. He showed her what stability feels like. He made her feel safe without controlling her. He gave love without losing himself. He lived with purpose that inspired her. Once she experiences this, everything else feels small, and whether they stay together or life moves them apart, she always keeps a space for him in her mind. The "what if I never find this energy again" space. That's why she fears losing him, because deep down she knows men like him don't come twice. If you want to become this man, start small. You don't need to be perfect. You don't need to be loud. You don't need to prove anything. You just need to build yourself quietly, honestly, consistently. Because when you become the man who is grounded, purposeful, confident, disciplined, respectful, and scarce, you don't chase love. You don't beg for attention. You don't fight to be chosen. You become the man she fears losing. And that changes everything.